Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, The Forgotten Channel. Let the shadows speak.
The Forgotten Channel. The year is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior kindergarten class when I was 5 years old, where we used to read out the date on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a stain in my mind, however, as a memory that will not go away no matter how I try to forget it. 1999 marked the year I lost my first tooth, my first time on a plane, and unfortunately the early loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be wiped. It all started with that new, or old, TV. At that time, Pokemon was the latest fad to hit the school. Pokemon cards, games, stickers, and the most popular, the TV show. So, of course, every time I came home from school, I would stay glued to the TV until Pokemon came on at 5. The only problem was that my dad watched the news at 5:30, and Pokemon episodes were back-to-back, which meant I had to miss an episode every day, something I whined on and on about. My dad got tired of hearing me complain every day. That must be why he went and bought another TV. My dad put the TV he bought in my room. Unfortunately, it was just an old, small boob tube with rabbit ears even. It also only had 20 channels available, not including the channel Pokemon was on. I recall I didn't care though. I was just thrilled I had my own TV in my room. After surfing through the channels, I came to the conclusion that only Channel 2, TVO Kids, was worth watching, so I watched that for a while. It wasn't for another few months until I discovered Channel 13. One day in April, I was flipping through the channels, trying to see if Pokemon was on. I pressed Channel 13 into the remote, hoping there were more channels, and to my delight, there was. My dad was surprised too, but he let me watch it because it seemed to have kids' programs on. The channel was called Brookstone Channel 13, and later I found out it was indeed broadcasted from the town of Brookstone, Ontario, a town very close to my city. The shows I saw on Brookstone Channel 13 looked poorly made, and I never understood what was going on in them half the time. However, as I grew up, every time I thought of that channel, I realized more and more how messed up the shows were, and I had to ask myself, what the fuck was I watching? The following is a list of shows and episodes I remember seeing on Brookstone Channel 13. How I remember such detail even disturbs me, but I guess things like this stand out in your mind for a while. The channel only ran a few shows, probably because it was only operational between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. April 1999. Mr. Friendly's Basement, Episode 12. Very sketchy name if you were to look at it nowadays. The show featured a guy wearing a bear mascot costume who would get a new visitor into his basement every day. It was always a kid. The show was filmed with a camcorder, and not a very good one either. The police asked me a lot of questions about this show. This episode started with Mr. Friendly sitting at a table playing checkers by himself. He sat there playing for a bit until there was a knock on the door. The camera was then looking up the stairs of the door where there was another knock. Mr. Friendly climbed the stairs and opened the door to reveal 2 young children. One was a boy about my age, and the other was a girl who looked about 8. Mr. Friendly danced in delight, and then started talking to the kids. I couldn't hear any of them that well, I remember. Mr. Friendly then led the kids into the basement, which was quite dark, only lit by a small oil lamp on the table. I can't really remember that much more, except him singing a song which I couldn't hear too well either, probably because of that large bear mask. The episode ended with them playing hide and seek, with the kids hiding in a closet and Mr. Friendly counting. May 1999. Soup and Spoon. I don't think this was even a show. I think it was more of a special movie thing. All I know is I stopped watching Brookstone Channel 13 for a while, because I thought this show was too stupid, especially since Pokemon now came on at 4:30 and 5 o'clock. I don't remember much of this, but it showed a can of soup and a spoon both attached to strings, swinging back and forth, as if someone was holding them and dangling them in front of the camera. Interestingly enough, the show was shot in a basement, which looked just like the one used in Mr. Friendly's basement. Like I said, I can't remember much The only thing I can remember clearly was the end. The entire thing was only half an hour and just included stuff I found stupid, such as the spoon chasing the soup around trying to eat him. The ending showed a table and about 7 kids sitting around it, each with a bowl of soup in front of them. They were sitting and looking at the camera, but with confused, almost frightened faces. The cameraman then held the can of soup in front of the kids and said, "Spoon's ready," and then it just stopped. July 1999. It was summer, and I hadn't watched Channel 13 for a while, until one day when I slept over at my friend's house, and I decided to check it out again. My friend had gotten a TV in his room for his 6th birthday, so we stayed up very late. For us, 9:30 was very late, and watched TV. That's when I remembered Channel 13 and brought it up to my friend. We decided to see if it was on, and to our surprise it was. They must have changed the broadcasting time. Mr. Friendly's Basement, episode 23. This episode was entertaining for my friend and me, mainly because it had swearing. However, now when I think of this episode, I realize something was definitely wrong when it was filmed. The episode started with the camera on its side, while it was facing Mr. Friendly, who was walking upstairs to the basement door. The camera then blacked out for about a second, before fading in, back upright, and facing Mr. Friendly. There was also another kid talking to him, but this kid looked about 11 or 12. He was talking to Mr. Friendly for a while, but I couldn't hear well, again with the crappy camcorder, until the kid started raising his voice. The kid was saying how it was late and his sister had to go home. You could also hear more voices in the background. I remember Mr. Friendly clearly saying, "Get the fuck out, you're not invited," with a deep voice muffled by the bear mask. I remember my friend and I looking at each other and laughing at the mention of the forbidden F word. But the episode got weirder. The kid began climbing the stairs before turning around and saying how he was going to call the police. Mr. Friendly began breaking into a run towards the kid, who started screaming and running as well. The camera then cut out, and that was the end of the episode. The channel then turned to static shortly after. August 1999. I didn't want to watch Channel 13 after that. In August, I grew more curious to see Mr. Friendly's Basement for some reason, though. The last episode one saw of Mr. Friendly was weird and had swearing, which also made me think the show was meant for teenagers. Nonetheless, I flipped on to Channel 13 when my dad was busy. Mr. Friendly's Basement, episode 28. Apparently, this episode had been playing the entire month of August. It was studied a lot by the police. The entire episode was just Mr. Friendly sitting in a chair talking to the audience. "Hello, kids. Do you want to visit my basement? If you do, please write me a letter at this address." The screen then switched to a white screen with multicolored letters reading the address, and that was what remained for the rest of the episode. This repeated for 5 hours every day until September came. And guess what I actually did? I sent Mr. Friendly, or that sick bastard who portrayed him, a letter. I did it out of curiosity mostly. My dad was okay with it because he thought it was a legit kid show, but then again he never saw any of what was on Channel 13. So I wrote a letter using my best writing possible. I think I just said how I wanted to meet Mr. Friendly. So my dad sent the letter to the address Mr. Friendly said on the show. It stayed on all day anyway for some reason. It took about a week to get a response, which I was surprised I did. I still have the letter I received on August 15th, 1999. The letter read, "Dear Ryan, thank you ever so much for your letter. I would love to have you in my basement. We play games, watch movies, and go fire camping in the middle of the woods. Come to my house at," the police cut out this address, "Brookstone, Ontario, Canada. I'll look very forward to having fun with you. Love, Mr. Friendly." I cannot believe my dad never found this sketchy because he actually took me to the house. And then that's when the police became involved. Those endless questions, those pictures of terrified kids, the woods. That brings me to why I'm writing this blog. That psycho and his friends did some fucked up shit back then, and now it seems he's trying to get into contact with me again. The entire police thing is coming back. That has brought 1999 back to me. over a decade later, is happening again. People have been emailing me asking what exactly happened in 1999. I will get to that. Those weird TV shows I was watching apparently were meant to attract kids to Mr. Friendly's house. What Mr. Friendly did shocked the entire town. My dad actually drove me to Brookstone along with the address Mr. Friendly left on the letter. The house was actually in the outskirts of the town in the open farmland. I still remember that house. It looked like an older farmhouse that looked to have been built in the early 1900s. The windows were all boarded up, and the house looked in a state of disrepair. As we walked up to the house, I remember my dad checking the address over and over again and looking at the house in disbelief. Then the door opened. I expected Mr. Friendly to be at the door, but I was surprised to see a police officer emerge from the creaking doorway. The officer began talking to my dad, while I quickly asked if that was Mr. Friendly's house. The officer's face cringed slightly, and he muttered, "Oh, God," or something like that. He started talking quietly to my dad, so I couldn't hear, although my dad told me to go to the car anyway. And then we just went home. My dad was quiet the whole way home. I felt something strange had happened. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it anyway, too. Channel 13 no longer came on, and when I asked about it, my dad would not acknowledge its existence. I think it was when I was 13 where I learned the truth. I remember Channel 13 one day and asked my dad about it. I guess he finally decided I should hear the truth. Brookstone Channel 13 was a local TV channel that ran from October 1997 to August 1999 in the Peel region of Ontario. The entire channel was made from a house in Brookstone, the one I visited, and run by a man who was not really known by anyone in the town. The channel was only available to older TVs because the signal was one only picked up by rabbit ears, weaker frequency. The man created all the shows on the channel, all of which were kid shows. He was Mr. Friendly, and he was the mysterious cameraman. The real reason he created the channel was more disturbing than what was originally thought. As you might have already guessed, he kidnapped kids and held them in his basement. But while most people thought he was a serial child molester, he really wanted to use the kids for another purpose. The day I arrived, the man had fled his house the night before, the day before the police went in for their investigation. I wasn't the only one who was watching. Update, December 2nd, 2009. Sorry for not answering any questions for so long. I haven't accessed my email account for some time. Anyway, let me finally set things straight about what I know. Back in October, I visited the house previously owned by the man who ran Brookstone Channel 13. 2 women lived there, operating a daycare business. How ironic. Now to answer the questions you guys emailed to me. Question: who else watched Brookstone Channel 13? A. I know other people watched it for sure, including those kids who wound up at Mr. Friendly's house. After some Google searches, I found a few people on the Neo-Seeker forums who were discussing shows for Brookstone Channel 13. They talked about the 2 shows I watched, but also another 2 shows I had never seen before. A user named I Am Real Life seemed to know all the shows that were broadcasted on Channel 13. Here are the 2 I've never heard of. The Fallen Angel and Life. I Am Real Life described it as a fairly boring show about a guy rambling on and on in front of the camera about how we must please Satan and appease him before it is too late. Paint with the Soul. I Am Real Life and another user called Siggy92 were discussing this show. They described it as Blair Witch-like, as it consisted of the cameraman wandering around a forest at night, doing nothing particularly interesting. I'll go looking for the conversation and see if I can get the link. Question: where is Mr. Friendly, or the guy who wore the costume? A. If I did know, I would have said earlier. I have no idea where this guy is, or if he's dead or alive, hopefully dead. When I see my dad's friend, next time I will ask him about this. Maybe I can get a more definite answer. Question: what did Mr. Friendly do to the children? A. This is by far the most common question I've been asked. I found this out in October as well, via my dad's friend who is a retired Brookstone regional officer. Apparently, the man playing Mr. Friendly took the kids out of the house and into the forest nearby. What he did there, police are not exactly sure how it happened, but 16 charred bodies of children between the ages of 4 to 13 were found in a 15 by 15-foot ditch deep within the forest. My dad's friend did not want to go into exact details, but I'm seeing him next Thursday anyway, so maybe I can extort more information from him then. That's all I have for now. Thanks for keeping an interest in my blog. I will try to gather as much information as I can for my next post. I've actually been getting pretty interested in this myself. It should be my right to know what the hell happened. Update: January 14th, 2010. I'm sorry I haven't posted anything for a while. I kind of lost interest in this blog since I hit a standstill while looking for more information about the identity of the owner of Brookstone Channel 13. However, a few weeks ago, I struck gold. I found some answers, surprisingly, from the father of a kid I used to babysit. He lives just across from my street, and I used to look after his kids when they were younger. He currently doesn't have a job either. He used to live near the woods outside of Brookstone and witnessed the owner's activities in the woods. His name is Anthony Pollo. When he lived in the small bungalow outside the woods, he would often venture in to smoke a joint of marijuana or two before returning to his work as a wood craftsman. Pollo described that sometimes he would hear voices of children coming from deeper within the woods, as well as a glowing light off in the distance. Pollo told me these events started in late 1997. Note, this is around the time Brookstone Channel 13 began airing. He apparently became annoyed by this happening every once in a while and actually went to investigate. Pollo then described what the whole scene looked like when he got there. There was a group of kids, he said about 13 to 17, and ages 5 to 12 gathered around a large fire pit with a burning fire. With them was a single adult. Pollo talked to the man, noting his unusual, unkempt appearance of a crack addict, as well as his constant twitching, and asked what he was doing out in the forest with children. The man said they were on a camping trip, something they did frequently. Pollo, not suspecting anything, Brookstone has one of the lowest crime rates in Canada, simply left it at that and told them to be quieter. Pollo then paused for a while before telling me that they never became quieter. In fact, sometimes he heard loud chanting from the children in an unknown language. He didn't bother meeting with the man again, as he was moving anyway. I told Pollo that the man was probably the owner of Brookstone Channel 13, but he doubted it, as he heard that the man was moving to Pickering by several other residents near that area. Here's what I know now. The man would take kids into the woods regularly for camping. The fire pit Pollo described may be the hole the bodies of the children were found in. The children Pollo saw are probably the ones found dead. The man moved to a city called Pickering, a smaller city east of Toronto. I will discuss this with my dad's friend, the ex-cop, and see if this matches anything the police knew about the man. I also want to see if he has any other knowledge of what was aired on Brookstone Channel 13. Update: February 10th, 2010. Good news, guys. I talked to my dad's friend, and he disclosed a lot of information for me. First, I asked if the police had any information on the man who ran Brookstone Channel 13. He replied that they have only had the same leads for years and never found a suspect. However, the Peel Regional Police do have some of the tapes found in the house Brookstone Channel 13 was broadcasted from. He took me over so I could watch a few. I guess I haven't said much about him yet. My dad's friend's name is Mitchell Wilson, a pretty nice guy. He seems to understand my thirst for knowledge on what happened during the late 90s in that house. He feels it was wrong that my dad went so long without telling me much. He took me to the Davis Road Police Station. If you don't know, it's the largest station in Brookstone and one of the largest within the Peel region itself. Each of the main stations around Peel have some of the tapes. I was able to watch all of the footage that the Davis Road Station has. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take any tapes home for obvious reasons. Paint with the Soul, Episode 10, Garbage Thrown Away. Paint with the Soul was one of the shows that I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 discussed on Neo Seeker. I told the police about this, and they informed me that 12 episodes of the show were made and broadcasted between December 5th, 1997 and January 8th, 1998. Exactly as I Am Real Life and Siggy 92 described, the episode opened with the cameraman wandering around in a forest. It appeared to be during the evening, as it seemed the sun was setting. The cameraman walked along a path until he got to an area where there was a lot of garbage lying in the leaves. The camera looked around at the various wrappers, bottles, bags, and boxes, making sure each item got a few seconds of screen time. The camera then focused on a single area before the man spoke. I recall he spoke in a very timid, quiet voice, and I swear I've heard it somewhere else before, like on another Brookstone Channel 13 show. I could barely hear what he was saying, but he mainly talked about how humans are garbage, or something that had to do with saving ourselves by cleaning up the garbage us. It actually sounded really stupid, but still a feeling of dread came over me. I mean, that forest was possibly where those bodies were found, right? Mr. Friendly's Basement, episode 25. When the police administrator brought this tape in, I actually said, "Oh shit," and chuckled a bit out loud. Of course, I got stares from the staff, but Wilson explained to them about my little experience with Mr. Friendly and how I still kept the letter he sent me. Like the previous episodes, this one included a guy wearing a bear mascot costume. The episode began with Mr. Friendly waddling over to his basement door with a bottle of orange juice in his paws. On the ground were 16 shot glasses, as well as a small bottle that contained an unknown liquid. Mr. Friendly poured an equal amount of orange juice into each glass before opening the smaller bottle and depositing one drop into the glasses. Mr. Friendly then went off camera. There were some minor sounds such as shuffling, and then Mr. Friendly emerged from behind the camera's location. Following him were 16 children. Some looked as young as 4, while others looked like they were practically teenagers. As the children entered, the administrator commented that this is the only episode that showed all 16 victims. The kids all looked rather content, except for this one who had visible bruises on his face, and unlike the other kids, he had a more fearful expression. He also looked about 11 to 12, which caused me to recognize him. He was the kid who had asked about his sister and subsequently met an unknown fate at the end of episode 23, that one episode one watched during July 1999. When I told the administrator this, he confirmed it was the same kid. He was also featured in episode 24, an episode that only aired once at 3 o'clock in July 1999. The police have still not found the tape. Mr. Friendly then broke into song, singing about citrus fruits and how good vitamin C was for you. I could barely hear the lyrics as they were muffled by the bear mask. The kids all drink their juice, the one from episode 23 doing it rather reluctantly, and the episode ended. After viewing the tapes in possession of the Davis Road Police Station, I'm satisfied, but only temporarily. I still want to know the full story. The police just keep giving me the same crap about the creator of Brookstone Channel 13 being a fetishist pedophile, as well as an apparent cultist. I will sign off for now, get into university first, and get information later. Hopefully, I will get back to this blog as soon as possible. Update: May 8th, 2010. Last month, I finally got my G2 license in Ontario, Canada. This allows you to drive in a car by yourself, as well as with some passengers after 6 months. I, of course, took advantage of this and drove into Brookstone for a little Sunday drive. Since I haven't updated this blog in a while, I figured I might as well visit the house where the infamous channel of my childhood was located. The house looked different than when I last saw it in October. The place was no longer used as a daycare and just sat there abandoned. However, it did have a for sale sign showing that someone still owned it, wanted to get rid of it though. The abandoned house drew fuzzy memories from my mind, mainly of that day my dad took me to visit Mr. Friendly. A feeling of dread came upon me. What happened to the children while they were living in that house? I walked up the steps to the front door and peered through the window. Inside, I could see a nearly empty hallway with a few boxes at the end. At the end of the hallway to the right was an open doorway, presumably leading to the kitchen. To the left were 2 doors, both apparently leading to the rooms visible through the windows outside. I wondered where the basement entrance was located and whether it had been sealed up. I walked around to the back of the house and found my answer. 2 wooden doors lying at an almost flat angle were padlocked shut. This had to lead to the basement. Not wanting to hang around, you cannot imagine what was going through my mind at that time. I departed. Behind the house, the empty field continued on until it reached a dense forest that lined the horizon. I wondered if that was the forest where the bodies of the children were found. I thought to myself, fuck it, and proceeded to walk across the field behind the house into the forest. The forest was oddly quiet, save for the few periodic sounds of a woodpecker drilling into a distant tree. I cautiously made my way deeper into the woods, not really caring about the fact that I had no idea where I was going. I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like there was something I had to find. I came to a thinner part of the woods and few small houses in the distance. Pollo's house crossed my mind, and I wondered if one of these homes had belonged to him. I neared a small clearing in which I could see 3 adequately sized logs gathered around a black, charred area, showing a small fire had been lit there recently. Hey, get the fuck out of our fort. Those words nearly gave me a heart attack. I turned to my left and saw 2 dark-clothed people running towards me. My initial thought was to run. However, as they came closer, I saw they were really just kids in their early teens, possibly 13 or 14, maybe even 12. As they approached me, they realized my size as well. I'm 6 feet 1 inch, while they could have been no bigger than 5 feet 8 inches. One might have been 5 feet 7 inches. We said, "Get the fuck out." The larger one, who was wearing a slipknot shirt, said half-heartedly. I stood my ground and shrugged. The shorter one, who was wearing a Metallica shirt, swung out a butterfly knife and held it in my direction. "No, you wouldn't want to," I said in a deep, serious tone, trying to sound as badass as possible. I pulled out my cell phone. The 2 kids withdrew, the one in the Metallica shirt putting away the knife. "Look, dude, we don't like people in our fort. So can you just go?" The one in the slipknot shirt said, obviously intimidated. I had no business in the forest anyway, so I uttered out a simple fine and turned before I realized I had a great opportunity. "Did either of you hear of a guy who murdered a bunch of kids in these woods about 13 years ago?" I asked the kids. The 2 looked at each other in confusion, before the one wearing the Metallica shirt answered. "Yeah, everyone knows about that guy," he said to me as if I were stupid. The kid in the slipknot shirt continued. "He still lives around here, in the storm drain. My big brother's friend says he saw him in a bear costume once, wandering around the forest at night." My instincts told me this was probably a lie, and the owner of Brookstone Channel 13 is probably long gone, only existing as folklore in this smaller, isolated community. However, as a human, the thought of the mysterious unknown sparks interest within. "And where is the storm drain?" I asked, just out of curiosity. I don't actually believe the kid's story. The kid in the Metallica shirt stared at me for a few moments, his eyes seemingly full of annoyance, yet curiosity for me. "You're not from around here, are you? Why did you even come here?" Now, I do admit I was slightly startled by the nature of his question. However, I figured I might as well explain why I was there, just in case people mistook my intentions. I told the 2 kids about my experience with a man in Brookstone Channel 13 and that I had come to maybe seek out some sort of closure, although even I wasn't exactly sure. The kids seemed familiar with the channel as they smiled and looked at each other when I mentioned it. They also became more understanding and gave me a detailed description on how to get to the storm drain. Shortly after, I decided to just turn around the way I came and head back to the house, leaving the kids at their fort. But now you're probably wondering why I left out such detail about what the kids told me just now. It is because I'm choosing to conclude what I have gathered now. Here is what the kids told me in detail. The storm drain lies ahead of the kids' fort, the same direction I was heading. The drain ends at a small river, where excess water is drained out. Near here is a small playground. The kids told me people rarely use it. The man supposedly lives in a large pipe that rainwater drains out of. People have seen him, although always either wearing a bear mask or the mask and a full-body bear costume. Note, I do not believe this is true, and in fact simply a myth made by the residents of Brookstone. The story does not seem plausible in any way. Why did no one call the police? Didn't this guy look suspicious? And other questions like these leave the story invalid. I may visit the storm drain, Not because I believe the story, but because I want an excuse to visit Brookstone again, so this blog doesn't die. With no more tapes to watch, I don't know what to talk about anymore. Thanks for continuing to support me and my blog. I know many are looking forward to more information about what happened in Brookstone during the year 1999, and I will do my best to continue my research into the topic. Ryan out. Update. October 7th, 2010. Wow, nearly 5 months since I last updated. I'm guessing everyone pretty much thinks I was dead, right? Thankfully, I'm not. But in all my seriousness, I really have been busy these past few months, and a blog about something that could have killed me as a kid is a little low on my current priorities list. As of now, I am living in Waterloo, Ontario, attending the University of Waterloo for computer engineering. Yeah, I'm a keener. As you can imagine, engineering is no walk in the park, so obviously I nearly forgot about this blog. But as you can see now, I am back. I remembered to visit the storm drain the kids from the Brookstone Forest told me about. It was out in a clearing between the wooded areas nearby a marsh. Unfortunately, I found absolutely nothing, save for a turtle that retreated into its built-in home when it saw me. I snapped some pics of the pipe, which I have posted as well. Also, let me tell you, it was not a storm drain like they said it was. What I saw was a simple pipe, possibly to channel the excess water from the marsh. When I returned from Brookstone, however, I simply kept putting off uploading everything until I forgot all about my blog. It just didn't seem important anymore. Please forgive me. It wasn't until only recently that I am now interested in my case again. On September 10th, I received an email from this email address, returntheb@hotmail.com. Funny, am I right? Well, it gets better. I'm going to copy and paste the exact email this guy sent me. Dear Ryan, my dear boy, you see, this story may or may not be true, but it could happen. There are many slots for airtime. If you have money, you can have a public access TV channel. Some public access channels share airtime, like EWTN, Relegau's channel based out of Michigan, that shows Catholic-based programming, but during off-air hours have independent shows or just blue screen. Cable networks have empty channels available for rent space. So the scenario of a pedo renting a channel on basic TV is not far-fetched at all. However, public access TV is widely reveiwed and can be terminated at any time. These are the rules for the United States, not for Canada, where this story took place. So if this happened in the US, the pedo would be tracked and arrested immediately. Yes, this story could happen, but it is unlikely. 100 fuzzy hugs. Mr. Friendly. Now, obviously this letter is fake and sounds almost corrupted, but still, I would like to thank whoever sent it, though they could use some English lessons. Just reading this letter creeped me out, but because of it, I am now full of this new interest to continue my blog. I guess it's just funny trying to pursue the mysteries I've always questioned. Now, my roommate knows about all of this. He thought the letter was real and actually seemed more scared than I was for a second. But then I shrugged it off, so he did too. I mean, what are the chances of this being real? How would Mr. Friendly know all this about public access TV and about when I went to Brookstone on those occasions? More or less know my email, or me still be interested in his basement? I'm going to send a reply to returntheb. Wow, just looking at the email address, you can tell someone wanted to freak me out. It didn't really work though. Although to whomever you are, thank you for sparking my interest back into the full matter. Maybe I can find out more about what happened to Mr. Friendly, hopefully, because although I don't buy that email, a part of me still feels anxious. Thank you to all those who are still following me and have become avid fans. You are also why I am choosing to continue this. Thanks, guys. Update, November 7th, 2010. Wow, I can't believe this blog hasn't been deleted yet. I haven't posted anything for so long. I have my reasons, and I'd rather not discuss them just yet. It has been a rather traumatic year for me. Some of you were right. I shouldn't have gone back, trying to relive the mysteries of my childhood, but I couldn't resist. It has been over a year since my last post, and a lot has happened. Let's recap where I'm at right now with regards to the whole Mr. Friendly incident. returntheb@hotmail.com is no longer in use. I tried replying to the email, but I got no reply. I tried again a while back, still no response. I've actually moved up to Ottawa, capital of Canada, for those who don't know, for university, so I haven't been back to Brookstone or back home in the Peel region for a while. I had my reasons for leaving, as you could guess why. I've had to make a new email account because people keep prank mailing me pretending to be Mr. Friendly. Thanks a lot, guys, not. Why have I ventured back to this blog? Mitchell Wilson, remember my dad's ex-cop friend, gave me a phone call on October 23rd about a tape that was found in a branch of the Brampton Public Library. Brampton is my hometown, in case you haven't picked up on that. He claims he isn't allowed to discuss the contents of the tape with me, as it is still in evidence. But he asked me to come check it out when I return home. That tape got the gears grinding again, because we all know what was on the last tapes I saw. I can only imagine what can be on it. I'm guessing it must have something to do with Brookstone Channel 13. I guess I just wanted to say I am continuing this blog, and thank you for everyone who still follows it. I don't know when my next entry will be, but when I see that tape, I'll write what I find. I don't know what to expect, but the idea of seeing another tape has gotten me interested in this whole mystery all over again. Ryan. Update, December 28th, 2010. Sorry for the delay, guys. I just got back from my trip to Brampton for Christmas. While there, I finally got a chance to meet up with Wilson, Dad's cop friend, remember? To discuss the tape found in the Brampton Library branch. I asked Wilson if I could watch the tape, but he refused, citing that it was still in police possession. But he did tell me about what he saw on it. The tape was part of the old archives of Brookstone Channel 13's videos. Surprise, surprise. On it was a show I had never seen or heard of before. One that Wilson claims to have seen only once when he was working in the investigation of the Brookstone house back in 1999. The show was called Booby. Wilson explained that it featured a man wearing a large expressionless white mask and a blonde wig. He sat at a table in a candlelit room and would say strange things in a low voice like, "Booby likes the smell of your flesh. Booby hates it when you sleep in his bed. Booby thinks yellow hurts his eyes." The video apparently was quite long and featured the man saying dozens of things like this, often repeating lines or twitching violently before saying something else. One thing Wilson noted was how Booby always seemed to be sitting at the same table in what looked like the kitchen of the Brookstone house. At the end of the video, Booby apparently would scream extremely loudly and throw the table to the floor before the camera cut to static. I've asked Wilson to try and get a copy of the video for me, as I'm extremely curious about it. He told me he'll see what he can do. In the meantime, I've tried looking up some more information online, but haven't found much other than a few forum posts here and there. I'll be heading back to Ottawa tomorrow morning, and I'll try to keep this blog updated with anything else I find out. Thanks again to everyone who keeps reading, and especially to those who email me real info or encouragement. It means a lot, really. Update, January 19th, 2011. So I've gotten a few emails from people asking if I've heard anything more from Wilson about the Booby tape. The answer is yes, kind of. He called me last week and said he might have something, but that he couldn't say over the phone. I'm planning to make a trip back to Brampton in February to meet with him again. Meanwhile, I've done some digging on the internet. Someone on Reddit actually messaged me a few days ago after finding my blog. They claimed to have seen Brookstone Channel 13 back in the day and remembered watching an episode of Soup and Spoon. They described the exact same things I remembered: the can of soup, the spoon on strings, the weird dark basement. But then they added something I never saw, or maybe I just blocked it out. They said at the very end of the episode, the screen cut to black for a few seconds and then showed a single frame of what looked like a real human skull. They said they were watching with their older brother, and both of them just stared at the screen confused. The next time they tuned into Channel 13, it was just static. This really freaked me out. I don't know if it's true or just someone messing with me. But if it is true, then it means Brookstone Channel 13 might have been even darker than I ever imagined. I've replied to the Reddit user and asked for more details, including where they lived and what year they remembered seeing the show. I'll post here again when / if they reply. This thing is still far from over. Update, February 26th, 2011. Just got back from Brampton again. I met up with Wilson yesterday evening, and we had a long conversation over coffee. He handed me a USB stick and said, "I shouldn't be giving this to you, but you've come this far. Just be careful with it." On the USB was a digital copy of the booby tape. I don't know how he got it. I didn't ask. I waited until I got back to my apartment in Ottawa to watch it. I had to pause the video several times and take breaks. It's unsettling. The video starts with static, then slowly fades into the image of a candlelit kitchen. At the table is a figure, exactly as Wilson described. Large, white mask, blonde wig, dressed in some kind of loose bathrobe. He doesn't speak for the first minute, just sits there, staring straight ahead. Then the camera zooms in slightly, and he starts to talk. The voice is soft, but strained, like someone trying not to cry. "Booby sees you through the window. Booby likes when you eat meat. Booby doesn't like cats. They see too much." At random intervals, the man twitches violently. His shoulders jerk, his head snaps to the side. Sometimes he slams his hands on the table. Other times he just whispers things I can't make out. At one point, he starts to laugh, this dry, hollow laugh that sounds like someone choking. Then he gets up and walks off screen. The camera doesn't follow. You just hear footsteps and then the sound of a door creaking. Then silence. After about 30 seconds, he returns and places something on the table. It's a teddy bear, missing an eye and covered in what looks like mud. He sits back down and stares at the bear for nearly 2 full minutes. No sound, no movement, just staring. Then the screaming starts. He throws the table over. The bear goes flying. He grabs the camera and you can see his hands. They're shaking, dirty, fingernails long and black. The camera crashes to the floor and there's nothing but static for the next few minutes. Then the video ends. I don't know what to think. I watched it 3 times now. Every time I feel like I've missed something. Like there's something hidden in it I'm not seeing. Wilson told me there were 3 booby tapes in total, but the police only recovered 2. I have the first one now. He said he might be able to get the second one eventually. To the people emailing me asking, is this real? I don't know anymore. At first I thought I was just chasing a weird memory from my childhood. Now it feels like I've stumbled onto something else entirely. Something I don't fully understand. I'll keep digging. I want to know what happened. And I want to know where the last booby tape is. Ryan. Final update. March 14th, 2011. I finally got the second booby tape from Wilson. He said it was recovered from a box of unmarked tapes that had been sitting in the evidence locker for over a decade. He transferred the footage to another USB stick and gave it to me yesterday. Before I get into what was on the tape, I want to say something. This whole thing has changed me. What started as a nostalgic look back at a creepy TV show from my childhood has become something else. I don't know how to describe it. Obsession? Trauma? Maybe both. All I know is that I've gone too far to stop now. Booby, tape 2. This video is shorter than the first. Only about 15 minutes long. It begins differently too. No static. Just a title card. White text on a black screen. Booby's Basement, Episode 3. Then it cuts to a shot of the same kitchen from before, but the camera is lower now, as if placed on the floor. Booby enters the frame from the left. He's dragging something. It takes a few seconds to realize it's a blanket-wrapped shape, child-sized. Booby places the bundle in a chair and sits across from it. For nearly 2 minutes, nothing happens. Then he begins to speak. Booby has a guest today. Booby likes to have friends over. Booby doesn't like it when friends cry. He reaches forward and pulls the blanket back slightly. Not enough to see what's inside, just a bit. He leans in and whispers something. The microphone doesn't pick it up. Then, Booby gets up, walks to the counter, and picks up a knife. He returns to the table and places the knife down gently. Booby is going to teach you a lesson. He picks up the camera, walks around the table, and aims the lens directly at the bundle. Just as he reaches for the blanket again, the screen cuts to black. The rest of the tape is completely blank. Just darkness. I don't know what was originally on the last few minutes. Maybe it was taped over. Maybe the police removed it. I called Wilson after watching it. He said the original VHS was damaged, that a large portion of the magnetic tape was stuck together when they tried to play it. He seemed shaken. I asked if he knew about a third booby tape. He said there was a rumor that one more tape existed, but no one ever found it. It may have been destroyed, or maybe it's still out there. I want to believe that this is where the story ends, that whoever made these shows is long gone, dead or locked away or just disappeared. But I don't know. I still think about the letter I got, the one signed Mr. Friendly. I think about the kids in the basement, in the forest, in the videos. I think about what I saw as a kid, what I almost walked into, what I survived. I don't know what Brookstone Channel 13 really was. I don't know how many people were involved or how they got away with it for so long. But I do know this. There was something real behind those shows. Something dangerous. Something evil. People ask me all the time, do you think it could happen again? The truth is, it probably already has. Maybe not in the same way. Not on public access TV, not in some abandoned house in Ontario. But somewhere, someone is making something, luring people in, playing pretend with real lives. So if you ever stumble onto a weird channel at night, if you ever see a man in a costume talking directly to you, if you ever feel like someone is watching from behind the screen, turn it off and don't look back. Thank you to everyone who followed me on this journey. This blog is now closed. I don't think I'll ever post here again. Some things are better left forgotten. Ryan.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.